if you would imagine all economies that have not been able to innovate, simply will not be able to compete, simply will not be able to earn foreign income. At the cutting edge of this shift is the creative sector of the economy: science and technology, software engineering and web publishing, digital media and design innovation, culture and entertainment, and the knowledge-based professions. Because these industries rely heavily on talent, countries around the world have stepped up their efforts to attract the brightest scientists, the most innovative thinkers. Since the best brains would go to where they can do the best work, it is natural for the advanced nations with their better facilities and higher salaries to attract the best talents. Many of the best brains from the poorest countries were sent to the advanced countries to further their studies, do not return home, and are lost to the rich countries. Africa reportedly has been losing 20 professionals annually to the developed countries. It is said that there are more African scientists, engineers, and designers in the United States than in the whole of the continent of Africa. Malaysia, too, is a victim of the migration of talents offshore. The questions that must be asked is, how do we reduce this loss of talent? Countries with the right conditions stand a better chance of moving ahead. They stand the best chance of attracting the best talents through innovation than those countries that still hold on to traditional and obsolete methods of governance, obsolete methods of doing things. The right conditions is the key here. Innovation can only happen in places where there's encouragement for new ideas, when there's encouragement for creative thinking. Without the right conditions, the most talented and the most creative brains will migrate to places where the environment is more supportive of their work. Where this is concerned, Malaysia has some distance to go in creating a culture for innovation. We have some distance to go in creating a platform to drive innovation. That means we must now create the right conditions. With the right conditions, we have a better chance of competing better and also keeping our best talents, perhaps attracting some of the other talents from elsewhere. Let's take a look at the position of some of the major drivers of innovation in the country. We are placed at 31st position in the Economy's Intelligence Unit, survey for 2004 to 2008, in innovation performance with 4.2 patents per million people. 4.2 per million people. Japan had 1,274.5 patents per million. That is the difference between us and Japan. And that's a long distance for us to cover. For comparison, Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and South Korea were all ranked much higher than Malaysia in the economy survey. Malaysia's gross expenditure on R&D, research and development, as a proportion of GDP is less than 1%, it's 0.6%. Singapore spent 5 billion US Singapore dollars on R&D in 2006, or 2.4% of their GDP. Finland, better known as Nokia, invests about 3.5% of their GDP on R&D. Malaysia has a ratio of 17 researchers, scientists, and engineers to every 100,000 people. We need to achieve a ratio of at least 60 researchers, scientists, and engineers to every 100,000 people to reach the goal set in Vision 2020. This is according to the Higher Education Department. In Singapore, the ratio is already 78 to 100,000. In the United Kingdom, it is 76 to 100,000. We stand at 17 per 100,000. Much has been said about thinking outside the box. Here in this country, many people still have the misconception that creativity is a talent gifted to a few, and the others just don't have it. They think you either have it or you don't. And that is absolutely not true. Completely not true. Creative thinking is an everyday thing. Farmers who find a better way to get things done, a cheaper way and a more productive way, are applying creative thinking. Creative thinking is applied every day, everywhere. They are using creativity to arrive at better solutions that give them better results. The entrepreneur who creates a new business, the engineer who designs a new highway, the architect who conceives a new building, the educator who creates an environment in school where students and teachers are comfortable exploring ideas, and the accountant who devises a new solution are all involved in creative thinking. If you like, creativity is everyone. It is how actively we use it and how actively we are aware of it. The minute you think to arrive at a solution, you are already engaged in the creative process. An innovative country simply means a country that has adopted creative thinking pervasively and has a culture of looking for better results, better solutions, and has the systems to support it. In other words, a systematic support to generate creative ideas and support innovation. The ecosystem, therefore, has to be there. Innovation takes place where new ideas are encouraged, recognized, and celebrated. Where creativity is actually promoted. The good thing is that creativity has no boundaries, and it knows no barriers. You could find it in the slums of Africa or in the most sophisticated part of New York. You can find it in Kuala Lumpur. You can find it in Batu Gajah. The size of population does not matter at all. Some innovative countries that are small are among the richest economies in the world. To see this, one has just to take a look at the highly innovative countries in Western Europe, many of which have very small populations. The process of encouraging creativity and building innovation must be systematic. That is why countries of the Western world is ahead of most other regions, because it is very systematic and very focused on quality and improvements. Without exception, all have well-developed creative industries which provide effective ongoing R&D in support of their industries. Without exception, all consider creativity and innovation as a strategic driver of national competitiveness. And without exception, all these countries are driven by highly sophisticated education systems. And education in these countries are often referred to as talent development rather than just education. Without exception, the governments of these countries have built economic and social infrastructures that encourage and promote creativity and talent cultivation. People in the Western countries are driven by a passion for innovation, as well as by the need for innovation. The efforts in making things better have brought about unimaginable advances to everything imaginable and created immense wealth for their countries. We have to do the same. We have to be among the best in the world to compete as we go forward. We shouldn't be competing, and we will not be competing with countries behind us. That is where the challenge is, and that is where the challenge to education is. How do we develop our young people from the tender age of 6 or 7 to become highly productive, highly competitive people who are able to compete for the country? As we go forward, it is no longer competing for oneself. If the country loses the business, the country loses the business. So we have to have people who not only have the skills to compete well, but the dedication to compete on behalf of the country. For us to move forward, pervasive, innovative thinking must take hold throughout our society and right through our government systems and administrative machinery. In other words, to move out of our comfort zone and to explore new areas where we will find new skills that will enable us to compete better. As I see it, to make this happen, we need to bring about a major shift in the mindset of our people. Starting from children to parents, from teachers to government leaders, from farmers to corporate leaders. We are by and large a conservative society. You may have to start with the redesigning of the Malaysian mind, which has remained, as I said earlier, largely conservative. Creativity is still perceived by many as something frivolous. Let me now disagree with some of the things that have been said. It has been suggested that being creative is not part of the Malaysian culture. It is said that the Malaysian tradition of subservience and conformity is incompatible with a culture of creative thinking